Hello everyone, it's Rory here from Pratts, and today we're going to fix an S8, Samsung S8 screen with a nice crack there. The LCD is not working, it's turned off now. So, excuse the noise, we've just got a new heat gun and it is very noisy. That should do it. Like I say, our heat gun broke, so we bought something else and it's very noisy. It doesn't kick out enough heat, so I'm probably going to be in the market to buy another one very, very soon. They're not expensive, but just one of those things that it's nice to have a decent one. There were some good reviews for this one, but it is pants compared to the one we did have. So you start off with the S8s, removing back glass, which you have to be very careful about not to break them. That going quite nicely. You also have to be careful of the fingerprint scanner on the back, because that plugs in right on the back and you don't want to rip that cable. That should be screen off. There you go, back glass off. So that's the start. And then what we need to do is clean this adhesive off the back glass so we can stick it back down, and we might as well just do that now. So, and again, you have to be careful with the curve on these, not to break the glass when removing this adhesive. So what I tend to do is get a bit up like that. I'll cut one side and I will just be able to pull it off around the edge, just like this. So, I'm not doing these videos as tutorials, so you can do them yourself. We don't recommend, especially with expensive phones like these Samsungs, we don't recommend you doing them yourself. You won't have the tools or the experience, and the last thing you want to do with a lovely phone like this is cause any further damage. So now I'm just cleaning off some of the leftover adhesive on the glass there with alcohol swabs. Go. That's the worst of it off. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's pretty good. Right, back to the phone now then. So we are doing a full LCD replacement on this. Again, I'm going to clean off some of the adhesive from this mid-frame. Go, a little bit there. That's that. So next is removing all the screws. Now, Samsungs are nice in a way that screws aren't all different, so we can just stick them in a pile. iPhones, almost every single screw is a different size, which means when doing any kind of repair on it, you need to remember which screw goes where, otherwise you'll end up getting stuff like long screw damage, which can be a right pain in the backside and very expensive to repair. So, once these screws are out, you'll see the inside workings of the phone. There we go. Right, now you've just got to be very careful, choose the right spot to lift these, but you're not going to damage any of the board. That's one, that's the wireless charging part off. That's the speaker part off. Disconnect the battery straight away. And then we can get on with removing the motherboard to place it into the new screen. So, other thing you need to do, remove the SIM holder, because that holds the motherboard in. That's coming out there. And then you should just be able to lift that motherboard out nice and easy. And once the board's out, you can focus on all the other parts. So, if we grab our screen here, and all we're going to do is slowly transfer each part over, starting with the front camera and the sensor flex. So I'm just going to move bits of plastic, stopping them getting dusty. Okay, this one here. So all of our Samsung screens are official Samsung service packs. We do not like to fit cheap, poor quality screens to Samsungs. At the end of the day, these phones are very, very expensive. We just don't think it's worthwhile fitting a substandard part to them. I know personally, if I had a phone this expensive, that I would not want a cheap, nasty screen to be fitted. So we only fit what we would use ourselves. Next, we're removing the vibrator module. That's out into this. But I don't know if you'd noticed, we are actually swapping this for a gold frame one. The chap was in a hurry, and this is what we had on the way. So he's happy to have a gold frame instead of a black. You don't really notice it, especially not when it's in a big case like he's got. So he's happy to do that just to have a fast turnaround. So we will do that for him. And these are the charging port screws. Then there. Charging port on the S8 is a lot easier than the S7 and the S6 edges, because you don't have the buttons that go through the screen. You just have the charging port, which is quite nice, because obviously these don't have the home button, the S8s, they just have the screen. And I believe that's everything we need to move over here, so that can come across into the new frame, and we can put all these screws back in. So, halfway there already. The S8 screens, well, most Samsung screens are pretty easy and straightforward to replace. It's just a matter of fact how expensive the screens are to buy. It's they are much more expensive than iPhones and stuff like that, unfortunately. It's just a matter of you only get original screens for Samsungs. You don't want to be fitting a cheap, nasty copy screen on a very expensive phone, so that is why the screens are that much more expensive, unfortunately. It's just routing those cables. I'm just going to do one last check to make sure I've got everything. And that is everything. So then the board can go in. Firstly, attaching the charging port. Remove these covers. And this one. Like so. They need to go through there. That sticks to one side. Front camera cable there. And then I just want to connect all of these up. Connect these up. That's the screen connector. That's gone in there nicely. Antenna cables. They want to go in there. All of this, I find all of this easier doing it by hand. Some people will use tweezers to fix these bits in, but personally I just think it's easier to just do it by hand. So that is that. Last screw for the charging port. Well, not the charging port, for the headphone jack. That's in there. That all looks very good. Lovely. So now we just need to remove the battery from this one. Batteries on these can be very stubborn. Excuse me again for the noise. Unfortunately, these aren't quite like the iPhones with the pull tabs. These do need gentle prying, but with the right amount of heat, a bit of patience, they come out easy. Now, it's a big thing with batteries not to overheat them. At the end of the day, you can get seriously hurt messing around with these batteries. Again, another reason we don't advise people to repair their own phones, because if you get a nick in that battery or overheat it or anything like that, you can be in a lot of trouble. So you're better off leaving it to someone like myself that knows what they're doing and done it plenty of times. Like I say, I don't believe I've ever popped a battery and had it set on fire on me, whereas I know a lot of people that have. So now I just need to put a bit of adhesive in the new frame for the battery. I'll use my standard stuff, one strip on each side of the battery. Just like so. And then peel the top layer off, stick that battery in. Perfect. And then before we go any further, I will test the phone before we start putting it back together. Unfortunately, I can't really show you this bit in case there's data on the phone that you're not allowed to see. You might have pictures or something like that. So that's it turning on. You can see that it is turning on. Like I say, I won't let you see the home screen for data protection. Could be images of someone's children or something like that on there, so obviously you're not allowed to see that. But that's turning on. I will just test the touch functions once that has booted, and then I'll continue to seal the phone up. Okay, so it's booting up and we have touch. So that is all I'm able to show you at the moment. I'm just going to turn it back off. Don't have the pattern, so I can't turn it back off, but that is pretty much it. So now it's a case of putting all the screws back in. That's not quite in there properly. I'm glad I saw that on the first screw and not the last one. So this needs to come in there. Just make sure I didn't just unplug anything by pulling that off. There we go. Next is this part. These are all just shields, a bit like with the iPhones, they have the metal shields on. Samsung use plastic ones. So obviously if you didn't have these, when it comes to removing that back glass, you would probably end up damaging the motherboard, which would make repairs very costly. So these are just here to sort of cover it, keep it safe. This is your wireless charging part, just in case you wanted to know. And then we put our screws in the top part here that holds the wireless charger. There we go. I'm just going to put customers' SIM cards back in. There we are. And then we're onto the back frame. So for the back frame, I use the same glue as before. The watertight adhesive. These were originally supposed to be waterproof, not that they are, because I've seen plenty of these water damaged in the past, but this is just about the best stuff for this sort of job. So we just put some adhesive all the way around the edge. A bit up here. And back down this side. There we go. Then we've just got to connect our Touch ID bit here, which is just about the most difficult part of this repair. So we get that attached to the front, and then I'm gonna, wrong actually, I'm gonna get it attached at the side, and then bring it down, get my tweezer in there, and that's that connected, and then we can seal up the device. What I do, I'll hold it there and just, because we've got that adhesive around the edge, a little bit might seep out. So I tend to go around to start with to get it while it's wet, and then I will go over it once more again once it's had time to seal up, and make sure there's no residue left sticking out. So that's that. I'll get that clamped. That's all working, and we'll have a happy customer.